I wrestle with God. Don't wrestle with God. You're going to lose. But I realized the voice was his, and he was trying to stop that from happening. But he opened a whole new door for me in the way I was looking at things. Because I've always had faith, but I never needed faith until I was hit with this. And I'm saying you, I've always had it, but this is the first time it was ever put to the test. And I just remember that, okay? I felt like the old me had died, and now I had to find a new path and a new door to kind of go through.
We have a gentleman by the name of Kevin Sorbo here with us tonight, and you're going to be hearing from him. Kevin is an actor. He's a director and producer now for over 35 years. He's an author, a speaker, a family man, and also a powerful Christian voice in the film industry and the nation. He was born in Mound, Minnesota, and you may not know this, but Kevin is 100% Norwegian, and he's very proud of his Viking heritage. You may know that he is renowned for his role as Hercules in the 7-year series, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys from 1993 to 2000. Hercules, by the way, became the most watched television show in the world at that time, with impacting over 100 million viewers globally. Now transitioning into faith-based cinema, Kevin and his wife Sam, who by the way he met on the set of Hercules, have dedicated their careers to producing and starring in films that champion Christian values and family unity. And they have 3 children, Braeden, Shane, and Octavia.
Committed to instilling courage in the young man facing life-threatening trials, Kevin Sorbo plays the park ranger in the upcoming Parent Compass feature film, Nathan Todd Sims feature film, Miracle on the Precipice.
I was thinking, since you were a demigod and everything, that maybe you shouldn't have him at a Christian event. Is there hope for demigods?
Well, it was a mythological show, but I got to tell you something. The writers back then, they actually put very good moral values in Hercules. We had a lot of humor in it, but if you watch the show, there was a lot of good moral values. I think if they did it today, it probably wouldn't be quite the same.
That's right. So, you know, we're glad you flew in here on Eagle's Wings for us tonight, Kevin. And one of the things that I didn't know that much about you is you've had quite the wilderness journey. But start us off. Did you have growing up a family of faith?
Oh, big time. A typical Norwegian boy who grew up in a Lutheran church, St. John's Lutheran Church. I'm the 4th of 5 kids. There's 4 boys. My sister's in the middle. And I grew up in a little town about 30 miles west of Minneapolis. It's called Mound, Minnesota. It's on the shores of the western shores of Lake Minnetonka. My home was home to Tonka Toys. So there's your trivia question right there.
Have fun.
And so it was church every Sunday, but my mom did a lot of Bible readings with all of us. And so it's always been in my, structure and all that. But I think the biggest influence on me when I was 13 years old, we had a youth pastor that came in, Pastor Lee. And we had a place called The Room at my church. So every Wednesday, year-round, from 8 to 10, it was 7th grade through 12th graders to go to The Room. And we had, what churches can afford, a beat-up couch, beat-up, beanbag chairs and stuff. We had a ping pong table and things. But it was also, he brought the Bible for me, and I'm sure with my other buddies in my class, he brought the Bible more into our world. Because our main pastor, Pastor Sanders, scared the hell out of me, which is good to get this hell scared out of you. And but he was just so, breathing was a sin with this guy. So I remember as a child, I told my parents, I said, I just don't think God's that angry with us. I think he loves us, but he was scary. But Pastor Lee was huge. Another thing happened that summer when I was 13, the Reverend Billy Graham came to speak at the St. Paul Fairgrounds. And it was a hot August night. Yes, Minnesota gets very hot and humid in the summers. And there's a full moon. There was 250,000 people outside at the fairgrounds. And something I normally wouldn't have done. He called everybody, if you want, we've had a lot of volunteers, please come up if you want to talk, pray, whatever. And I started going up. One of my buddies, Jeff, goes, where are you going? I said, I don't know, I just got to go up there. And I'm sitting on the ground talking to this guy. He was like 35, so he was really old to me. You know? And we were just talking. And all of a sudden a hand went on my head, and I turned around, and it was the Reverend Billy Graham. And his head was perfectly behind the full moon. So I was, this light coming out. So it's kind of like those paintings of Jesus always have the light around it. And we talked about sports, and we talked about school, and then he prayed for me, and that was huge. And I told that story in the Larry King Show. And Larry Ross, who's based out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, does a lot of publicity for the Franklin, for the Graham family, called me up and he said, they're doing a Chicken Soup for the Soul book for the Reverend. And it's the only time they ever did a hardcover book. And they asked me if I would tell my story. So I'm in there with Mother Teresa and the presidents, and I was a 13-year-old kid at that time when the story. It was years later, of course. And then they invited me to do the publicity on the book for them. So they traveled me around the country doing the publicity, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so you moved into the godly realm from. But in your book, True Strength, you go from demigod to mere mortal. How nearly dying saved your life.
Yes.
Seriously?
Yep.
Wow. I thought you were Hercules.
No. It was the end of season 5 on Hercules. I was all kinds of problems with my left arm, and I couldn't figure what was going on. I was doing most of my own stunts because my ego said that I could, and I enjoyed it. I was a jock playing football and basketball through high school and college and everything, so I wanted to do it. And my stunt guys made me look good. But I was always getting cuts and sprains and bruises, but this one is really weird. And I came back at the end of season 5 to do publicity on my first big budget movie called Kull the Conqueror. Kull was the prequel to Conan the Barbarian. In the books, Kull is the father of Conan. Arnold Schwarzenegger played Conan. He's older than me, but I'm his father. So I look at that as must be Common Core math. I don't know. We'll ask Bill Gates about that. So I'm on Letterman, all these talk shows, and my arm was falling apart. The silent fire. They sent a doctor to my hotel room in Boston. His name was Dr. Dye. D-Y-E, I know, but change your bloody name, okay? Take your mother's maiden name, you're a doctor. And he said, I think it's cardiovascular. So I went to check it out. They found a lump way up here in my left subclavicle, and my doctor back in LA said, we got to check this out, maybe do a biopsy. Next morning, I go to see my chiropractor. Now, in 8 years, I've seen this chiropractor who's never cracked my neck. I don't like my neck cracked. Leave my neck alone. I'm laying on the table, he's working on it. I hear a voice inside my head that said, don't let him crack your neck, which I thought was weird. He's never cracked, in 8 years, I don't like my neck cracked. Don't let him crack your neck, louder. While I'm arguing the voice, he unwittingly did a thing that ultimately broke me. He cracked my neck, I suffered 3 strokes. I had an aneurysm that had been spitting blood clots on my left subclavicle down on my arm, suffocating the flow of blood into my hands and fingers, which were always cold and numb. But that crack, as doctors call retrograde flow. And because of the location of the aneurysm. And it took me 4 months to learn how to walk and balancing, and it took me 3 years to fully recover from it. And I had a lot of battles with God, I got to tell you, because it was the why me syndrome, But my wife, we were 4 months away from our marriage at that time, and I was going to actually call off the wedding. I said, I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't want to be like, you're getting the worst part first before he even says for better or worse. And I don't want to put her on this situation. She stuck by my side. And one doctor, the head of neurology at USC Medical Center in Los Angeles, said to me, he goes, don't ever put your life on hold. And I said, all of you here, because we do. We always kind of forget to do things, or we just bypass things, or we don't pay attention to our kids or our grandkids. Take a minute. I learned a lot from that. I actually gained a lot of patience. But God, I ultimately knew that I wrestle with God. Don't wrestle with God. You're going to lose. But I realized the voice was his, and he was trying to stop that from happening. But he opened a whole new door for me in the way I was looking at things, because I've always had faith, but I never needed faith until I was hit with this. And I'm saying you, I've always had it, but this is the first time I was ever put to the test. And I just remember that, okay? I felt like the old me had died, and now I had to find a new path and a new door to kind of go through. And that was really, I wrote the book. I didn't want to write the book. My wife made me write it. And she wrote a few chapters as well. She says they're the best chapters. They probably are. But I wrote it, and it came out about 13 years ago. And initially it came out just, all some people asked me to speak, but it's motivational speaking. I remember speaking to a group of 1,600 neurologists in San Diego, and I said, there's a reason what they call what you guys do a practice. Half of them laughed, the other half didn't. But then people read the book. Oh, he's a Christian. Will you come speak at our church? Oh, you're pro-life. So most of my speaking is really pro-life right now. That's what, yeah, pretty much I do, because we got to wake people up to the reality of what we're doing. I mean, that's crazy. You talk about roughly 65 million lives we snuffed out since Roe v. Wade, and it's murder. I don't care. There's a heartbeat in 22 days. Don't tell me it's not a life. And this my body, my choice thing drives me crazy. And I tell women, if it was your body, you'd be dead too. It's not your body. It's a body that you're hosting inside of you. But anyway, I get off on tangent with that. Sorry. But the book really, it's amazing what it's done, because it's really, I've had people come up to me after they read it and saying, I stopped feeling sorry for myself. Because my wife was really, I've had a lot of miracles happen. Not only God, but the miracle is meeting my wife, Sam, because she was huge and instrumental in my growth. And every time I got down, she said, Kevin, it happened. What are you going to do about it? And I'm very strong-willed, and I needed that support, not only from her, but also from God and my family and friends. So it was huge for me to have that, because I don't know how I would have survived without her constant nagging and just overwhelmingly optimistic point of view in life. So it was huge for me, and I'm grateful for that book, because after people walk up to me and say, your book has made me just being more positive about things. Bad things happen. God never promised us, Jesus never promised us an easy life. Bad things happen to all of us. We all have stories. Everybody's got, the book is, when you hit a roadblock, how do you react to that roadblock? Are you going to blame God? You can blame the world, blame friends? Look in the mirror. I always say, cue the Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror. Because really, it starts with you and your attitude and what you're going to do, because it's going to make you stronger if you don't be negative about it. Be positive about it. I was told to look at my strokes as a gift, which is hard to look at. But I had to find a way to accept it as a gift, because it's like kids. Kids are a gift, you know. I wanted to abort this aneurysm, but I couldn't. So, it was a long road, but I'm grateful for it. And I'm glad the road that God has put me on now.
Yeah. Amazing work to that. Okay, switching gears here to Hollywood. You have said Hollywood likes to put out their own messages a lot of times, and the messages aren't the best for everyone. That's a very nice way to put that. But what do you mean there?
Well, you see Hollywood's agenda. Every movie has an agenda. Every movie does. Every movie is a faith-based movie. If you believe in nothing, that's an incredibly strong faith. To believe in nothing. I feel sorry for people like that. I've got atheist friends, and I say, if I'm wrong, I've lost nothing. But if I'm right, see you later. So the way I look at it. But Hollywood's agenda has changed so much. It really kind of started happening in the '60s, where they started celebrating the anti-hero. They started, it wasn't the hero anymore. It wasn't the John Wayne days and things like that. So, but that's when it sort of started. That's when they didn't have a rating system until the '60s. That was born because movies get more violent. But I got to a point and said, this is ridiculous what's going on right now in the movies that they're making, the movies they're doing. And I got called in about 12 years ago. I'm the first cancel culture victim before I knew it was a term. My manager's on one side of the hill, they're in Beverly Hills. My manager's in the studio seat, my agent's in Beverly Hills. They never cross that mountain. If you know LA at all, they never cross that hill, because it's always a pain in the butt. It's going to take an hour to get over there with the traffic. They call me in, and they're both in the same office. And I said, what's going on? This is an intervention. They said, the studios don't want to work with you anymore. This is a dozen years ago. And I said, well, why? Well, the things you post, you're Christian, you're conservative. And I said, but I always have been. So they go, yeah, but the winds are changing. So I said, oh, they don't want to hear the truth. Okay, I understand. They booted me out. So I had no choice. I love the industry. You love the industry. We love what we do. I don't care what side of the camera you're on within the industry of making movies and TV shows. Anybody that does this business, you can't say, well, I just kind of fell into it. No, you do it because you love it and you want to be part of it. And so I just, my wife and I, we formed Sorbo Studios. We've been doing our own thing. We've been blessed to raise money. It's not easy raising money on these movies, but we've been very lucky. Every time I've raised money for a movie that I'm directing, it's been a God thing. And it's other indies, like what Todd's doing, and other independent people come to me. So I'm very blessed. The last 12, 13 years, I do about 4 movies a year, and documentaries as well. I've been very lucky to be part of that. So we're grateful for another road. I mean, once again, the door shut, God opened another door. And it started with me, What If? What If is my first, you saw a little trailer for that, with a dinner table with my wife, and it's an alternate universe I end up in, and I realize I'm married with 2 kids. And What If is written by the same writers that did God's Not Dead. And What If came out 2 years earlier. Who saw God's Not Dead? Yeah. Pretty good movie. Thank you. That $2 million budget movie made $140 million. That doesn't happen. That is like the guy who invested in that, Troy Duhan, it was the first time I ever invested in a movie. I told Troy, I said, that was like the same baseball team getting 2 grand slams in 1 inning. Said it's very, very rare that a movie that's a low budget with very little advertising, it came from people like you giving it word of mouth. That's what really helped. And What If, in my book, much better movie. Much better movie. And it did okay. It was my first PureFlix movie as well. Dallas Jenkins directed it. You've heard of him. and he even says it's the best movie he's ever done.
So, there's an onslaught out there on media for the family. What is the biggest battle, and how do families combat it?
Biggest battle for families in what way? What do you mean?
In media.
Here's the thing. Hollywood, Andrew Breitbart was a friend, and he said politics runs downstream from culture. Maybe somebody said it before, but that's the first time I heard it. Who runs the culture? Hollywood does. Hollywood, the bubble of Hollywood and the bubble of the Democrats in Washington, D.C. have such a huge influence in the mainstream media over what's been going on. The public school system has been deteriorating. We took the Bible out of the schools in 1964. Everybody was homeschooled before the late 1800s. Our founding fathers were homeschooled, and they were brilliant guys. We're homeschool advocates. My wife travels the country. We homeschool all of our kids. I think one of the blessings of COVID is 2 million more families in America woke up when they saw how bad our education system is. There's always exceptions to the rules, I get it. But really, we were number 1 in the world through the 50s. And then we're 40th now. America, we're 40th in public education. We're number 40. We should be so proud. So we have to fight back. I mean, I'm glad to see a lot of people are leaving Netflix and places like that. They're waking up. They're finally waking up. But look, I did a movie called Let There Be Light that Sean Hannity funded. It's a wonderful movie. Did very well in theaters. Opened number 2 per screen average against Thor Ragnarok that opened that same weekend. A $300 million movie with a $100 million advertising budget against a $2.3 million movie with a $1 million advertising budget. By the grace of Dan Whitney, you know him as Larry the Cable Guy. He came in and he gave me $1 million to at least try to do some sort of way to get it in the theaters. And it stayed in theaters for 4 months. We opened number 2. I get a call from Netflix on Monday morning after opening weekend saying, this is in 2018, we want to open an inspirational division and have you run it. So I was excited. I go and had 4 meetings over 4 months with them. Ultimately, they did nothing. In my last meeting, I said, you guys called me in. There's 80 million homes that want the kind of movies that I'm doing. And you can scream socialism and you say all you want. You are a capitalist industry. Let's not kid ourselves. So if anything, why not appease those 80 million nuts that you want to call the people who believe in God and make good movies? I think they're waking up now. They're starting tilting because they actually reached out to me about 6 months ago and asked me to send a couple scripts to them. We'll see what happens. But it's amazing to me that the country's going through what it's going through right now, that we got to fight. And parents need to be totally, be on top of what your kids are watching. The internet is the Wild West. And I'll tell you with this AI thing, it's only going to get worse because we're not going to be able to tell a difference between what's true and what's not. They can put anything out there right now.
What do you see as God's greater purpose for you and I and all of us?
I think involvement in the industry, because Hollywood's winning the battle with their secular movies. I think the biggest killer, not only politically in America, but also spiritually, is apathy. People just give up. And churches don't work together. There's too many churches that won't work with other churches. I keep saying, excuse me, is there a different God out there that I'm unaware of? There's one God, you know? He said, let there be light. So we got to fight the darkness of the evil that's coming out of Hollywood and not be afraid It's in Proverbs. The only thing to fear is God himself. So, we need people to wake up and not let fear control your lives, people. We need people who are willing to stand up and willing to be canceled. They took 4 million followers away from me on Facebook 4 years ago for speaking the truth. I'm very sarcastic on X. So you can follow me on X. At least I'm up to 2.5 million followers there at least. But it took me a long time to get back on Facebook. I just got back on there after 4 years. I'm starting from scratch. Where's my 4 million followers? But this is the craziness we have, that one side gets to control so much of the narrative out there right now, and cancel you for having faith, cancel you for having a different opinion than them. Charlie Kirk was a dear friend. I'm still very angry what happened. I've known Charlie the last 10 years of his life. It still doesn't seem real to me. But what came out is that 80,000 new chapters of schools across this country want to continue Turning Point USA. So Charlie is still alive, well alive.
That's right. It's strong. Why do you think the work of Parent Compass is important for fighting for children and families today?
Because you're showing true stories. You're showing true stories of miracles. I think miracles happen every day, and people just forget about it. It doesn't have to be walking on water, folks. Just be, I got atheist friends, and I say, you know what? I know you don't want to pray, but do something called the grateful prayer. And they go, what's that? The grateful prayer is you're stuck in traffic in LA. Be grateful you got a car. Be grateful you got a pillow. Be grateful the sun came out. Be grateful you got a place to live. We're so caught up in the quickness of the world and the spontaneity of it all. We just have our attention spans have just gone downhill. And we just need to really go back and thank God. Talk to God like we're talking now. You don't have to put these and thous in there. Just talk to the guy. Talk to Jesus. They'll listen to your prayers. It's not always going to be yes. God, give me the lottery numbers, God, please. It doesn't work that way. But we need to, what you guys are doing is awesome, because you're going to real families and showing real things, and people need to support what you're doing. You need to support the things that you're doing, and hopefully support the things I'm doing. We need people to financially support, otherwise Hollywood will win this battle. They will. And they're waking up, but they just don't seem to care. So what you're doing here is awesome. And you just need people to keep going and keep showing true families going through true things in life and how they battle through the roadblocks that life gives to all of us.
Do you have a last comment for us, Kevin?
It really just comes down to the support of what we're all doing. It really comes down to that. If you guys want to change the world, you got to help us change the world. We're able to reach millions and millions of people with these movies, but we can't reach them without the support of you people letting other people know that it exists, that it's out there. You do exactly the opposite what Hollywood has done. If you look at sitcoms, every sitcom, you go back 70s up till now, what do? The mom's a babe, the dad's kind of fat and out of shape, and the teenage kids use dad as a pincushion. They on purpose are denigrating father. They're on purpose saying you don't need families, you don't need that kind of, all that kind of. They do it, and it's on purpose. They're trying to destroy us. It's satanic what they're doing. And the devil's doing a darn good job of pretending he doesn't exist. But he's out there and he's laughing the whole way right now. And what you guys are doing is the opposite. You're showing miracles within families. You're bringing joy and love. And the biggest thing we need in this world right now is hope. That's what people need. That's what people are looking for.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.